1st February 2023, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the last full union budget before 2024 elections. India's most awaited financial event comes in the midst of global slowdown, inflation, liquidity tightening, geopolitical tensions, and re-emergence of COVID-19. Will India look to fire up its manufacturing? Will India build a moat against global uncertainties? What will the budget have for the middle class? Watch the complete coverage of Budget 2023. Real-time analysis, expert takes all day on Moneycontrol. Log on to www.moneycontrol.com for more.
Welcome back to Moneycontrol live stream. You're watching Closing Bell. I'm Santosh Nair.
And I'm Yatin Mota, as always, joining you from the studio.
Well, a good comeback by the bulls, but it still seems to be a case of very much seesaw. One day up and one day down. Frontline shares were the outperformers today, but mid-caps were under pressure. More importantly, the Nifty managed to close above the psychological 18,000 mark. FMCG, auto, realty and IT shares were among the gainers, while banks, pharma and metal shares struggled. The India Volatility Index, also known as the fear index, was down by about 4% and has now fallen below the 15 mark. L&T, HUL, HDFC Bank among the big gainers, while State Bank of India, IndusInd Bank, Coal India and Wipro among the laggards.
Absolutely, and whenever Santo talks about the fear index, I think when he focuses on fear, next day the market goes up. Well,
in this case the index has actually come down, which means that I think the bulls are getting a little complacent probably, or they're getting a little bit confident. But given the overall weak macro picture we are seeing both globally and back home also, you saw the export numbers. There's a sharp contraction in the in December exports. Well, I do think that bulls are beginning to feel a little overconfident.
But I think December का जो डेटा एक्सपोर्ट का है, जनरली वहाँ सीजनैलिटी भी होती है, बहुत सारे वर्किंग डेज नहीं होते सैंटो, लेकिन उस पर और कभी आर्ग्यू करेंगे, मार्केट्स पे फोकस करेंगे. ऑब्वियसली एज सैंटो वाज मेंशनिंग, आज मिड कैप्स में थोड़ा बहुत प्रेशर आपको दिखाई पड़ रहा था, और शायद इसीलिए जो एनएससी का एडवांस डिक्लाइन रेशियो है 1:1 दिखाई पड़ रहा है. बैंक्स में भी थोड़ी बहुत कमजोरी थी, खास करके जो स्टेट रन पीएसयू बैंक्स हैं. लेकिन अगर आप ओवरऑल मार्केट का पिक्चर देखें तो 18,050 के ऊपर हमने डिसाइसिवली आज क्लोज किया. ऑब्वियसली एक बड़ा रिलीफ है बुल्स के लिए, क्योंकि हम स्ट्रगल कर रहे थे ये 17,800 18,200 की रेंज में. लोगों को लगा कि जैसे ही हम 18,000 तोड़ रहे हैं, 17,800 तोड़ रहे हैं, तो शायद वहाँ एक आपको बेयर ग्रिप में बाजार आता हुआ दिखाई पड़ेगा. ऐसा कुछ हुआ नहीं, और इनफैक्ट हम काफ़ी एक सपोर्ट जोन से अच्छा बाउंस दिखा पा रहे हैं. और सैंटो, जो एक्सपर्ट्स का ओपिनियन है वो तो ये बन रहा है कि अगर ये बाजार यहाँ से थोड़ा बहुत भी मोमेंटम दिखाता है तो एक बड़ी शॉर्ट कवरिंग रैली भी आपको यहाँ से देखने को मिल सकती है.
Well, I think that is again I would call some kind of a hope rally out there, because you're still having you're still not out of the woods. It's been a good comeback, but you've not seen market consistently building on its gains. So I think I will hold my judgment for the time being.
तो जितना बेरिश रहेंगे ना सेंटो, उतना ही मार्केट ऊपर जाएगा, दिखे कल.
Well, with that
bet कर लेते हैं.
ठीक है. Well, we'll keep a bet on that. The stock takes for this afternoon, the stocks which caught our attention, starting off with Reliance Industries. This was one of the stocks that lent support to the major indices today. The stock was up by a little over 1%. Just a disclosure here, Network 18 is part of the Reliance group. Now, Jefferies has come out with a buy rating on Reliance Industries with a price target of 3,100 rupees. The key trigger, according to Jefferies, has been the government giving its approval for the green hydrogen mission. Now, in the case of Reliance, for a long time, there's been some kind of a technical barrier also. It's been unable to get past the 2,800 mark, despite a decent set of earnings and many other positive triggers. That somehow is acting like a major resistance for the stock at this point in time. Now, according to Jefferies, the phase 1 for the green hydrogen mission will focus on existing hydrogen users. The phase 2 will focus on new customer industries. And the brokerage has said that the subsidy which is being given for green hydrogen mission at a little less than 20,000 crore is very paltry when you compare it with the kind of subsidies that governments in US and Europe are giving. And according to Jefferies, if the government gives meaningful subsidies, probably we could see a big jump in the valuation of Reliance's green hydrogen foray.
एब्सोल्युटली एंड जो बुल केस का सिनेरियो है रिलायंस के लिए जेफरीज के द्वारा, वहाँ 3,500 का टारगेट सैंटो रखा गया है। तो ऑब्वियसली अगर आप रिटेल बिजनेस देख लें, हाइड्रोजन बिजनेस देख लें, जिसके बारे में आप बात कर रहे हैं, जियो के बारे में कर लें, तो एक अनलॉकिंग की पॉसिबिलिटी बनी हुई है। स्ट्रीट को लगता है कि यहाँ जो शेयर होल्डर्स को अनलॉकिंग के ज़रिए एक रिवॉर्ड मिल सकता है, मीडियम टर्म में एक बड़ा ट्रिगर रह सकता है शेयर प्राइस के लिए। तो ऑब्वियसली अगर 3,100 का भी भाव देख लें तो यहाँ भी आपको दिखेगा कि लगभग 25 से 30% की अपसाइड है, और 3,500 का टारगेट अगर आप बुल केस का अज्यूम कर लें तो यहाँ से शायद 50%, 40-50% की भी अपसाइड रिलायंस में ब्रोकरेजेस को बनती हुई दिखाई पड़ती है। तो ऑब्वियसली ये रिलायंस के बारे में बात हुई। सैंटो, जो एक दो स्टॉक्स जो न्यू एज कंपनीज हैं, आज डिसअपॉइंटिंग रहा सेशन, क्योंकि निफ्टी 500 में टॉप 3 लूजर्स आज न्यू एज कंपनीज थी, नायका, जोमैटो और पेटीएम। ये तीनों ही शेयर्स आज निफ्टी 500 पे पिटे, 4 से 5% की गिरावट, और नायका आज ऑल टाइम लो पे आके खड़ा हुआ है। ऑब्वियसली नायका की अगर हम बात करें तो जो आज का मार्केट कैप है करीब 38,000 करोड़ का है। मार्केट कैप जो पीक का था वो था 1,15,000 करोड़ रुपए। तो ऑलमोस्ट कहेंगे तो 60 to 65% का आपको पीक से डिक्लाइन होता हुआ दिखाई पड़ा है। बहुत सारे इन्वेस्टर्स यहाँ उम्मीद लगा के बैठे थे कि न्यू एज कंपनीज अच्छा करेंगी, लेकिन मुझे लगता है अब बाजार एक रियलिस्टिक अप्रोच कर रहा है, अर्निंग्स पे फोकस कर रहा है और कैश फ्लोज पे फोकस कर रहा है। और न्यू एज कंपनीज में अगर आप देखें तो वो एक फैक्टर मिसिंग है, जिसके कारण वैल्यूएशन में इतना स्टीप करेक्शन आता हुआ दिखाई पड़ रहा है। देयर इज नो एंड, हर दिन एक ब्लॉक डील होती है, हर दिन सौदे होते हैं और शेयर गिरते ही चला जा रहा है।
Well, in the case of Nykaa, for a long time it had still held up because the company was profitable, although the valuations clearly didn't justify that kind of a price. But the backers of the stock always would say that this is one company that's making profits,
Yes.
and so it's better compared to, it still stands out compared to some of the other new age business. But now what has changed probably, Yatin, it seems, is that botched bonus issue that has really
Yes.
turned investor sentiment against the stock, and that has brought the focus squarely on valuations, which probably is one of the main reason. It's a mix of both weak sentiment as well as fundamentals which are
Clear.
causing the stock to tank. But also, Yatin, at some point in most of the stocks you see the occasional bounce. Traders probably would be looking for that. You saw that in the case of Zomato when the stock plunged to about 40 and then gave a near 50%
Yes.
jump from those levels. You saw it, you occasionally see it in Paytm, stock price coming off sharply, and then there's a 10 to 15% jump. So I think in the case of Nykaa too, probably traders would be watching in anticipation, because at some point, at some price, the valuations seem to make sense, and but barring that those kind of technical bounces, it's hard to see one making sustained returns from the stock over a longer period of time.
Yes.
Well, and the next stock on our watch list is GM Breweries. Now, good set of quarterly earnings again, and this is for the 8th quarter now that GM Breweries has been reporting almost a double-digit growth in its revenue, and some other factors also helping the company at this point. One is the easing of raw material prices, both a decline in agri-commodities
Yes.
as well as crude prices, which means that the packaging costs have also reduced. The growth in revenues were always there, but the margins had been under pressure for quite some time. In the first half of the year, the margins were under pressure, but now that slowly seems to be changing. And again, demand for country liquor, according to Moneycontrol Pro analysts, remained very strong despite the overall talk of rural slowdown. Liquor is one product which somehow continues to see good demand, and because of the festive season, again that has also contributed to GM Breweries numbers. And lastly, GM Breweries at this point is operating at about 40 to 50% of its capacity, which means that should there be more demand, clearly it will be able to cater to that without incurring additional capital expenditure. And also in terms of valuations, it's quoting at close to about 12 times 12-month trailing P, which is not very expensive again, although the stock price has not really performed for some time now. It had touched a peak of a little over 900 sometime last year, and it's currently around 600, although it was among one of the better performers in the mid cap space today.
आज फ्राइडे नहीं है फिर भी आप ब्रूरीज की बात कर रहे हैं। आज मंगलवार है, कोई पीता भी नहीं मंगलवार को।
Well, yeah, I forgot about that.
बट एनीवेज जीएम ब्रूवरी के संतरा ब्रांड से हटके अब सुला विनियार्ड्स की बात करते हैं.
And I can say the same for you, Yatin. It's not Friday yet.
फ्राइडे नहीं है, लेकिन स्टॉक इन फोकस है सुला विनियार्ड्स, बिकॉज यहाँ येस्टरडे एक लार्ज ट्रेड रिपोर्ट हुई. क्वांट म्यूचुअल फंड ने 10 लाख शेयर खरीदे, करीब 362 रुपीज़ के आसपास. ऑब्वियसली ये एक आईपीओ है या एक रीसेंट लिस्टिंग है जिसने बहुत अच्छा रिटर्न्स इन्वेस्टर्स को दिया है. यहाँ म्यूचुअल फंड का भी इंटरेस्ट आ रहा है. ऑब्वियसली अगर हम आज के मार्केट कैप से अर्निंग्स को कंपेयर कर लें, जो FY22 की अर्निंग्स थी, तो आपको 40-50 टाइम्स के पीई मल्टीपल पे ये स्टॉक दिखाई पड़ेगा. लेकिन जो हिसाब से कंपनी ने ग्रोथ की चर्चा की है, जो इनके क्वार्टरली अपडेट्स भी आए, वो काफ़ी मजबूत थे. तो आगे जाते हुए जो अर्निंग्स ग्रोथ मोमेंटम है, उससे शायद आपको वैल्यूएशंस अट्रैक्टिव दिखें. यहाँ से जो इन्वेस्टर्स चेस करेंगे वो ग्रोथ चेस करेंगे. और इनके दो बिजनेसेस है. एक ऑब्वियसली इनका वाइन का बिजनेस तो है ही, लेकिन इनके रिसोर्ट्स भी हैं जो अच्छी तरीके से अच्छे यूटिलाइजेशन पे काम कर रहे हैं. तो शायद एक काउंटर बैलेंस इनके सिक्लिकल बिजनेसेस पे एक दूसरे के तरफ से मिलते रहेंगे. और जो इन्वेस्टर्स आगे चलते हुए जो प्रीमियम वैल्यूएशन शायद स्टॉक को दे सकते हैं, क्योंकि प्रॉब्ली एक सिंगल प्रोडक्ट जैसे हम कहें वाइन का एक सिंगल लिस्टेड स्टॉक है, तो शायद इसको स्कैर्सिटी प्रीमियम भी मिल सकता है.
Well, Yatin, I think that's a case of citing a development to fit the narrative, because most of the positives that you mentioned about Sula Vineyard, it was already known to public all this while. Despite that, the stock has been struggling for a while, and yesterday's probably and today also is the first time that it's been able to convincingly close above its IPO price.
Right.
I think at this point in time, all the activity would largely have to do with the fact that one leading institutional player has finally backed the stock.
Yes.
Maybe that is what has changed sentiment for the stock in the short term. But some of the other concerns, such as the valuations, that I guess Yatin still remains, because it's quoting at roughly what, 60 times trailing 12-month earnings. And if you look at the growth in its top line since FY19, even if you were to adjust for the COVID year, it's still not been really great, whereas most other industries have been slowly moving back to pre-COVID levels. We're not seeing that yet in the case of Sula Vineyard. So I think this enthusiasm might last for a couple of more days. You might see some good volumes, but I'm a little skeptical, Yatin, whether this
इश्यू प्राइस तो 357 था सैंटो, और आज 380 पे स्टॉक बंद हुआ है. लगभग 6% आईपीओ प्राइस से ऊपर है केवल. तो लिस्टिंग तो दमदार नहीं हुई है. यस,
that's it. Well, and with that, it's a wrap on this episode of Closing Bell. Thank you for watching.
जुड़ने के लिए बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद.
And we'll be back with you again at 9 AM tomorrow.
First February 2023, the Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the last full union budget before 2024 elections. India's most awaited financial event comes in the midst of global slowdown, inflation, liquidity tightening, geopolitical tensions, and re-emergence of COVID-19. Will India look to fire up its manufacturing? Will India build a moat against global uncertainties? What will the budget have for the middle class? Watch the complete coverage of Budget 2023. Real-time analysis, expert takes all day on Moneycontrol. Log on to www.moneycontrol.com for more.